Councillors, ladies and gentlemen in the gallery, please be upstanding for the worshipful mayor of the Borough of Wigan, Councillor Susan Greensmith.
Good evening, everybody. Please remain standing where my chaplain, Reverend Judith Cooper, says a few words before we start the meeting. Reverend Judith.
Thank you. Let us pray. Fire of God and wind of God, Spirit of God, purify us in the flame of your mercy. Change us by the breath of your power, and take possession of us in the warmth of your love, so that we may rediscover your image in us. Spirit of God and Lord and giver of life, moving between us and around us, like wind or water or fire. Breathe into us your freshness, that we may awake, cleanse our vision, that we may see more clearly, kindle our senses, that we may feel more sharply, and give us the courage to live as you would have us live, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. Please. The housekeeping rules of conduct for the meeting have been circulated in advance, and copies are on your seats. Apologies for absence.
Councillor G. Davis, Councillor Gray, Councillor Carmichael, Councillor Clark, Councillor Jane Hodgkinson and Councillor Holland. Are there any further changes this evening?
Minutes of the annual council meeting held on the 23rd of May 2019. I will move the acceptance of these as a correct record. Can I put these minutes to the vote?
Make a second, Madam Mayor.
All those in favour of accepting the minutes, please show. Thank you. Mayor's announcements. Queen's Birthday Honour List. I am pleased to report that the following people with connection to the Wigan Borough have been honoured in the Queen's Birthday Honour List. Mrs. Elizabeth Costello has been awarded a BEM for her service to the arts community in Leeds. The following have been won the Queen Awards for voluntary service. Fir Clement, Kathy. Highfold Community Group, Leigh Film Society, CIC, Wrighton, Wigan and Leigh NHS Foundation Trust volunteers. May I, on behalf of the Council, congratulate those persons who have received these prestigious awards. On Force Day, the 30th of June 2018, I would like to refer to the Armed Forces Day event on the 30th of June. This is an annual event that is designed to give support to our armed forces. This year's venue was Wigan Town Centre. The event was very well supported across the borough, and I attended with my consort. Declarations of interest. The monitoring officer has provided advice to all members and relevant guidance has been issued. All members are asked to consider other disclosable peculiar interest for the purpose of this meeting, and if there are any personal or prejudicial interest, then they must leave the room. Please fill out the relevant form if you need to declare any interest at this meeting, and return this to Christine at the end of the meeting. Update from her Cabinet portfolio holders. I now invite Councillor Bullen to speak on private schools' attainment outcomes. Councillor Bullen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for inviting me to speak. What I'm going to report are, I need to say, are the initial and provisional pupil level outcomes for primary school age pupils from this summer's teacher assessment and national testing. And this may be subject to some changes, Madam Mayor, as full detail is released. But overall, I want you to know that there are some very pleasing improvements, in particular at Key Stage 2, as well as, on the whole, maintaining our position against national averages. First of all, in our early years, when children come to the end of their time in our nursery settings, the percentage of children achieving a good level of development this year is 69%, which means we've maintained good standards from last year. At Key Stage 1, the end of the infant phase, 75% of pupils in Wigan attain the expected standard for reading, which is as last year. And 70% of pupils in Wigan attain the expected standard for writing, but that's an improvement of 1% from last year. And in mathematics, 77% of our pupils attain the expected standard. And again, it's an increase of 1%, and it means that we continue to be above the national average. Looking at the end of Key Stage 2, which is when our children finish their time in the primary phase, taken together, scores for reading, writing and mathematics, 69% of our pupils achieve the expected standard, and this is up from 66% from last year, and it marks a rise of 12% in the last 2 years, which I think you'll agree is a significant achievement. On progress, the progress pupils make by age 11 at the end of Key Stage 2 from a point at which they start their education in our primary schools also reflects very positively compared to their peers nationally. Now I know, Madam Mayor, that percentages and figures like that are really a little bit dry and dusty, so I brought some real children to join us this evening, because those scores, national averages and so on and so forth in comparisons are only part of the story of everything that goes on in the life of our schools, all the work and all the achievements. And I'd like to congratulate our pupils who work so hard to gain such successful outcomes, and not forgetting the parents and the carers who supported them along the way. And finally, Madam Mayor, I would like to thank the last school day of the year, all our schools, the head teachers, the support staff and governors who have guided, supported and nurtured our children and prepared them for the next school year in September. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Was the presentation. Councillors Halliwell and Draper will introduce the next item on Moscow. Councillor Halliwell, Councillor Draper.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm proud to introduce this item for the Moscow campaign. For those who don't realise, it's women against the state pension increase. In these little introductions, they have fought very hard to raise the profile of this fight so that they can just simply be treated fairly. Neither did they need me to speak for them. But like the rest of this Labour group, they have my support, they have our support, and I will let them speak for themselves. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Councillor Howell, for that. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to welcome our fabulous WASPy ladies to the Council Chamber. I am looking forward to their presentation. I put forward the WASPI motion in this council chamber on the 2nd of November 2016, which was passed unanimously. In November 2017, I was appointed the WASPI champion on behalf of Wigan Council, the first in the country, and again, Wigan Council leading the way. We have up to 18,950 ladies in the whole of the Wigan Borough. Since November last year, Wigan Council have had the backing of Donna Hall, her staff, the leader, the deputy leader, all the 3 MPs and local councils. We have produced 2 videos and the WASPI 1950s ladies with myself, which has had over 30,000 hits and went viral. We made a follow-up video during the Women's International Week, which was also very successful. The face of the police square was painted purple with the WASPI logo also went viral. I attended both groups at a tour event in Manchester Town Hall where the MPs spoke and I spoke on behalf of Wigan Council when the Manchester Town Hall was illuminated purple. The WASPI campaign and details of the groups as our publicity appeared in the Borough Live and on Wigan Council Facebook and Twitter. There are many other goals which we have achieved working together. The campaign has a very supportive network with me and the Wigan Council. We have pledged to support our 1950s ladies until they get justice. These ladies are feisty, clever, professional, and they're determined. So now I'm going to hand you over to Jan Foster and Anne Edwards, which are the coordinators for Wigan and Bakerfield group, and Karen Riley and Polly Grundy, representing our lead group, to give their presentation. Thank you. Over to you, ladies.
Thank you for asking us to come to Wigan Council meeting tonight and for allowing us to speak to you all. My name is Jan Foster and I'm here with my friend Anne Edwards. We're both WASPI women from the Makerfield constituency. In 2015 to 16 we were part of the lead WASPI group, but gradually came to see that many women from our part of town found it difficult to get to lead the meetings, and realised that there was a need for a second group in the borough. With this in mind, we formed the Wigan and Makerfield WASPI group in March 2017 to represent the 11,900 potential WASPI women in our area. Together, the 2 groups now represent the 18,000 women in the Wigan borough, born in the 1950s, who have had 2 rises in their state pension age with little or no notice. Remember that this doesn't only affect the women themselves, but has an impact on the family finances and ultimately the economy of our community. This problem isn't restricted to here in our town, as 3.8 million women across the country are coming to grips with what, in reality, this actually means for them. WASPI, by the way, stands for Women Against State Pension Inequality. I want to start by giving you a brief history of what the WASPI campaign is fighting for and what we've achieved so far. I think if you had said to me that at the age of 62 that I would be making a speech on behalf of the most significant women's protest in the UK of the 21st century, something that affects, as I've said, almost 4 million women, I'd have thought you were mad. During retirement, I intended looking after my grandchildren, taking holidays, and knitting, not organising demonstrations, lobbying MPs and wearing a sash. It's incredible to think that 100 years on from when some of the women were given the vote, we would still be standing here fighting for justice for women. Progress has been made, but there is still a long way to go. In the early 1900s, pensions were only available to people who'd reached the age of 70 or more, and at that time, only 1 in 4 of the population actually got there. Changes in 1925 introduced a pension based on contributions, and in 1940 they lowered the age of women to 60 to recognise that most women married older men and that they would then retire at the same age as their husband, who I think in 1948 would retire at 65. If you scroll forward to 1995, here's where the trouble started. Following pressure from Europe, the government was forced to announce plans to equalise state pension age for men and women. The proposed timetable was a relaxed one. The pension age rise was supposed to take place over a 10-year period, from 2010 to 2020, which in itself doesn't sound too much of a problem. A 5-year rise over a 10-year period. The problem is that raising the pension age is unpopular with the electorate. So rather than risking this unpopularity, successive governments have decided that they wouldn't write to any of the women affected by this change. Governments of all political colours have played their part in this travesty. Instead, the government claimed that they published details in magazines and newspapers, but further investigation has shown that it was mainly in the financial section of the broadsheets. Now, I don't know what you were doing in 1995 or 2011, but I was teaching and bringing up a family, and I definitely didn't read the Financial Times, although I do remember both years very well. In some ways, not for very good reasons, because my father-in-law died suddenly in 1995 and my dad on the operating table in 2011. Our daughter had our first grandchild and our school survived Ofsted. Now, if the DWP had sent a personal letter, I would have taken notice of that. And as a teacher, I might well not have laminated it, but it would definitely have been in a plastic wallet in a folder somewhere. The DWP did a survey in 2004 and showed that many women had no idea that their pension age was changing. But despite knowing this, the DWP still didn't send out any letters until 2009, a whopping 14 years after the 1995 Act was passed, and only 1 year before the rise started in April 2010. And then they stopped sending letters. Because in 2011, the people in power realised that there were huge savings to be made by the government by raising the pension age still further to 66 for both men and women, and accelerating the pace of change for women. We are not against the equalisation of the pension age, but the manner and the speed in which this has been achieved. This lack of information is something that we are finding has caused hardship time and time again. On the WASPI Facebook page, we've had thousands of comments from women who received no notification of the intended rise in their state pension age. I find it completely incomprehensible that the government couldn't have spared what would have been at that time a 20p stamp to have told me that they were keeping £48,000 of my state pension provision. £48,000 isn't a small amount. The 5-year rise in the state pension age was supposed to be gradual over a 10-year period, but successive Acts of Parliament have meant that that 6-year rise was completed in just 4.5 years. 4.5 years to deprive millions of women of what they expected to receive at 60. So here we are in 2018, with a national campaign started on Facebook by just 5 women who were affected by this injustice. As you will imagine, there have been changes in leadership in the WASPI headquarters, partly due to frustration, partly due to differences of opinion on how to move the campaign forward to a successful conclusion. And what all the pension groups do, however, agree is that we've been treated unfairly and that we want our pensions. I'd now like to hand over to Karen, from the Lead WASPI group, who will share with you what this actually means in reality for men and women born in the 1950s.
The Pension Group was the founding group of the borough, with the first ever meeting taking place in St Peter's Cafe in Leeds, chaired by Pat Morgan in 2015. We have since assisted ladies to complete approximately 200 letters of complaint after setting up 2 weekly and 1 monthly workshops and have supported events both locally and nationally. In particular, working with Leigh Film Society showing the film Suffragette in Leigh St Mary's Church that was attended by local councillors, our MP John Platt, alongside members of the public and ladies dressed as suffragettes. The stories that follow are true accounts of members' circumstances. A woman came into the group. She worked all her life in low-paid jobs, as her husband was the main earner in the family, which was the norm for 1950s born women. Sadly, he died suddenly, leaving her a widow. They were not wealthy, apart from owning their own home, having had her state pension age rise dramatically from what she had always expected. She had no choice but to live off her meagre savings until they ran out. At which point, she sold the family home and went into rented accommodation. She wasn't well enough to return to work, and has subsequently experienced 7 years of ill health and has reached the point where she could no longer afford the rent. At this point, in her 60s, she's had to give up her independence after a lifetime of hard work and move in and live with her son. This is not fair on either her or her son and his family, and had she received her state pension, she could have retained her independence.
Another lady came into our drop-in centre, and first she said she felt that she shouldn't be there, as she'd currently started to get her state pension at long last. The saddest thing was that her mum was dying, and she wanted more than anything to spend her final months with her. However, she couldn't do that as she was on her own, having divorced many years earlier, and had to work full time to support herself, having no form of income other than coming into the household. When she finally got her bush delayed pension, she found that she cut down her hours that she could at least spend the last precious time with her mum and not worry about paying the bills. But tragically, her mum passed away very soon after, and she is still heartbroken that she'd not get to spend the precious time with her that she had so desperately wanted to do during her mother's last few months. She also told us that where she worked, she was in a low-paid caring home, that most of the staff, even the new recruits, were women in their 60s, who were there because they were desperately needed the income, despite the fact that most of them were physically unfit for the roles. But ironically, the few younger members of the team were always complaining about how old they were, how physically limited they were regarding their work duties, i.e. like lifting patients, personal bathing and caring. But our 60s ladies carried on without any complaints.
A Leigh member has a disabled husband. Indeed, he has been disabled for many years, and therefore she has been the main breadwinner, despite being in a low-paid, physically demanding job as a hospital cook. At 64, she is still having to work a single weekend in the hospital kitchens, lifting heavy pots and on her feet all day, despite being in very poor and deteriorating health herself. She works weekends instead of resting, and then like most women her age, because during the week she helps care for her grandchildren who live quite a distance away in order to help her own son and daughter-in-law with the cost of childcare. This woman never rests, and she's poorly, and she's terrified of going off sick in case she loses her job at a local hospital.
Another lady was encouraged to finish work in her late 50s by her husband and her family after suffering a period of health. Once recovered, rather than go back to her own work, her daughter asked her if she would help to look after her grandchildren, and enabling her to take more hours at work and boost the family income without her having to pay the extra for childcare costs. Her husband persuaded her by reassuring her that he earned enough to keep them both so she could indeed finish work, which she did. Then the very worst happened. He died suddenly. She was, of course, devastated, but this was made so much worse by the knowledge that after his funeral, she would now have to do something she had never contemplated ever having to do in her 60s. She would now have to go to the job centre and sign for unemployment. But she was devastated by the treatment she received there, feeling that she was a fraud in some way and being regarded as someone who was avoiding work. She had to travel all over the place, attending interviews and courses, with no bus pass, so no assistance help. She had already worked for over 40 years, and here she was, being treated like a shirker rather than a worker that she had been all her life. We know that many 1950s women have died whilst campaigning for what is rightfully ours. We have had 2 members of our own group that sadly passed away without receiving their due state pension. One of these was partway through completing her letters that were placed at the DWP. And well, we just might say that this is too less for the government to ignore and treat with disrespect.
What has been denied us 1950s women is the freedom of choice our own members had. Whether we continue to work past 60 and also be in receipt of our state pensions, or finish work still having an income of our own in the form of our own state pension. Now this has gone, we have no choice. How can this be called equality or even civilised? Now, according to a House of Commons briefing document from the 28th of July 2017, the number of women affected in the UK is 3.8 million. In the North West is 423,000. In Leigh, 6,100. Makerfield, 5,900. And Wigan, 6,000. So that's across the borough. There's 18,000 women denied their own state pension at 60 years of age, the age we grew up expecting to receive it. Is how can women born into an unequal world be expected to accept this in the name of equality?
To put this in context, statistics show that during the period 2013 to 17, those of our age group claiming employment support allowance increased by 440% in Leigh, 390% in Makerfield, and 420% in Wigan, whilst those of this same cohort who were driven to claim universal credit or job seekers allowance increased by approximately 100% in each of the constituencies. As you can imagine, these figures are indicative of the misery and despair experienced by our generation, who are seeking to find work to sustain them until they reach their new state pension ages. Many are in poor health, supporting ageing parents and helping out with grandchildren. It is therefore no wonder that the WASPI campaign now has 140 local groups in the UK and Europe, with almost 80,000 followers. They've arranged local Day of Action events to raise awareness, spoken on local radio and television, and have been interviewed in magazines and local papers. We have an all-party parliamentary group with over 120 MPs supporting the campaign. It's reassuring to see that today politicians of all political colours have come together to look at this problem. We've had 13 debates in Parliament. We handed over the largest public petition presented to Parliament, the longest to get presented, 25 minutes, and the number of constituencies represented, 206. Around 2,500 WASPI women protested in Westminster in June 2016 and 7,500 or more on Budget Day 2017. We were told that the ladies could be heard in Parliament due to the whistles, pans and loud voices. We are in the process of organising mass complaints to the DWP for maladministration. It's been heartening to hear just this week that the Parliamentary Ombudsman is looking into these very complaints. Over 110 local and county councils now support WASPI. But here in Wigan, we have a first. Thanks to Wigan Council, we have our own WASPI champion, Pat Draper, who has really hit the ground running on our behalf. We are very grateful for her for enlisting the help of Donna Hall and people from so many other departments to help us in our plight. The model we see here in Wigan really needs sharing with other supportive councils, although I don't suppose any other will have had a face painted purple to highlight their cause. So having achieved all this success, you may well be asking, why exactly are we here? One reason is to raise awareness with you. Every ward in the Wigan Borough has approximately 720 women affected by this injustice, many of whom are really struggling financially. Secondly, that despite all this growing groundswell of opinion in our favour, the government is still not listening to us. We have to up our game. We have to dig in and remember that we're asking for something that the government don't want to give us, our pensions, something that will cost them a large sum of money. Indeed, at the 2013 Global Investment Conference, a senior politician boasted and said that it was one of the least controversial things that had been done and probably saved more money than anything else. As we know, billions were saved in this manner at a personal cost of approximately £48,000 to each and every 1950s woman. To enable WASPI women to achieve a fair outcome, we need to persuade MPs from all parties that we have a just cause. Again, we know that we are fortunate here in the Wigan Borough, as all three of our MPs have supported us from the beginning and have tried to make their voices heard in Parliament. And it needs to be action that will help all 3.8 million women, not just a subset as some politicians have proposed. So what now? We need to engage more women, we need to enrage more women, and we need to make sure that they have the skills and tools they need to make their voices heard by the government. These are the women who were frequently as children told, little girls should be seen and not heard. They say, I just couldn't go and see my MP. I wouldn't know where to start. We are hoping that you, the members of Wigan Council, will be helping us to give women the tools they need to break down these barriers. Knowledge about the campaign and what we're aiming for. Knowledge of credits that could boost their national insurance contributions for voluntary work that they are currently undertaking, like looking after grandchildren or aged parents. Engagement, to encourage women to be proactive and join us in this fight. To encourage them to share their stories and not be embarrassed about the circumstances they have found themselves in through no fault of their own. To encourage them to write these letters of complaint to the DWP. Empowerment. On our own, we may feel helpless, but together we can and will be heard. Together, we can develop the skills needed to bring about the change which has to be made and to bring real hope to those currently suffering.
We are also hoping that Wigan Council could help us in different ways, such as helping us to get our message out to any of your staff that are born in the 1950s, to help distribute leaflets and information to any ladies who are born who seek advice, to enable us to speak to people who are affected by this travesty and to give them the information that might help them with related problems. It would be wonderful if you could help us and support us in any of the ways mentioned. For these women and the many hundreds of thousands like them. Please, let's work together to do everything that we can to enable them to make their voices heard loud enough to change the government's mind on this debacle. In conclusion, we'd like to show you a short presentation of what we in the Wigan Borough have been doing to raise awareness of this injustice and how we have been supporting the campaign at grassroots level. Now with this, I'm not claiming any sort of ability in this. It's one of our ladies sitting in the gallery who's done that, our Pat. Lovely, thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round. You can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we're walking out. Mountains.
items and exemptions. From calling, members are requested to note the key decisions or press excluded items that have been taken as urgent items and those that have been made exempt from calling since the last report to the Council. These decisions are included on pages 37 and 38 of your agenda. Members are requested to note these decisions. Appointments to statutory and non-statutory co-opted members to the Council's committees. The Council is requested to accept the nominations as set out on page 43 of the report. Are the nominations moved? Leader.
Wish to move, Madam Mayor.
Are these seconded?
Wish to second, Madam Mayor.
Do any other members wish to contribute? All those in favour of accepting the nomination set out in the report, please vote. Against? Appointments of local authority representative governors. The Council is requested to approve the nominations for the appointments of school governors, together with nominations for the reappointment for existing governors, as set out on page 48 of the Council agenda. Are the nominations and reappointments moved?
Wish to move, Madam Mayor. Wish to second, Madam Mayor.
Do any other members wish to contribute? All those in favour of accepting the recommendations, please show. Against? Thank you. Policy and budget framework items. Treasury Management Annual Review 2017 to 18. At pages 51 to 62, we have a report that requests the Council to know the outcome position for 2018 and the comparison against the traditional indicator previously agreed by the Council in March. Is the report moved?
Move, Madam Mayor.
Is the recommendation seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Do any other members wish to contribute? Councillor Brewer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak on this item. Yeah, once again, not enough information in a report at this scale, at this level. I'd like to bring your attention to page 56, item number 6, borrowing outturn for 2017-18. No PWLB borrowing was undertaken during 2017-18. Then it goes on to say, the Council has repaid £6.72 million PWLB loans during 17-18. Doesn't make sense that when we've not undertaken any borrowing. Why we're paying interest back? You know, it just doesn't make sense there. And you know, we've received information as well that we lend out £73 million with an interest payment received to us of £161,000. I'd like to request that the £73 million given to other councils in the England area, all Labour councils by the way, we should top up these pensions of these ladies. And lend the £73 million to these ladies and top up your pensions and let you retire at 60. Because they don't need this money in Wigan, because they lend it out to other councils at a very low interest. Well, You know, you ladies are like my mother and everything like me, and I respect my mum. And, you know, I request, and I think we should vote on it, to give these ladies part of this 73 million, or all of it, instead of trying to claw back 161,000 pounds. It's an absolute disgrace. I mean, what are you doing at all? I mean, you talk about action. You don't do nothing. Right? The wasp is there. I was on the streets with them in Wigan, 2 captains straight away. They told me about the plight. They told me that they had to pay for all the banners and the ribbons out of their own money. I went to the bank, gave them 500 quid. Didn't want anything for it. But I was on that video. I was shocked to me, because I don't want publicity. Didn't want it, but I did get it as a Labour member reporting it to the Electoral Commission for trying to encourage get votes. I didn't promote it in the election. Didn't want anything. Didn't even want to get on the photograph. I mean, you need to wake up and smell the coffee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ely. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't at the last meeting due to work commitments. Can I congratulate you to your position, and also to the leader and vice leader. Basically, I'm going to walk in for a little bit of help. Like Councillor Riley, and I didn't see anything wrong with the graph, I didn't see anything right, I had trouble understanding it. In future, if there's a group of independents which would like some more information, it would be fantastic, because from our position, if we got more information and officers run through it, by all means we'd absolutely support you and pass it through. Unfortunately, we couldn't manage to get a meeting, so like I say, it's a lot of numbers for us to understand on a small graph. So like I say, a little bit of support, and if everything looks good, you'll have my full support anyway. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Anybody else wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak and respond to my colleagues' concern. Can I just clarify, no PWLB loan was taken in 2017 and 18. The loan repaid was a historic loan that was taken previously. The idea of Treasury management is to place as much money as we can with other institutions other than banks to keep our bank charges at minimum. We have a lending list of secure banks and institutions we can place our money with. This includes other councils, any type of local authority. We struggle to place money with banks as local authority deposits don't count towards the liquidity, as local authorities tend to move the money on short notices. Some banks, such as HSBC, won't accept less than £25 million. And in these cases, we will contact councils to see if they need short-term cash. We charge the ongoing investment rate, which is currently around 0.2%. This is what we would get from the banks. Can I just emphasize that investment rate should not be confused with the borrowing rate. If we try to charge this to other local authorities, they will go elsewhere, especially when they are helping us to manage our cash flow. I think it was helpful. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Leader, do you wish to sum up? Sorry, Councillor Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It gives me great pleasure and I'm honoured to speak at this chairman. Can I just point out to Councillor Raymond that we're lending money out at less than the base rates of the bank, and that's 0.5%. We're lending loans out here at 0.4%. The rate of inflation is 2.3%. So if we don't have a base rate of loans over the rate of inflation, we're losing money on that. And you can't compete with the banks anyway, because they create money, they print it out of fresh air. Got to take it easy. Thank you.
Can I just say, we are not lending the money, We are giving the money for very short term. Yeah, we are not lending the money, we are borrowing, we are lending the money for very short terms, and basic rate doesn't come into the equation. It is just the investment rate, and if we charge them as same as the base rate, the local authorities would go elsewhere. And this is not lending, this is just investing the money for short periods of time.
Does anybody else wish to speak? I'm sorry, Mr. Ely, you've already spoken and can't speak again. Anybody else wish to speak? The leader, do you wish to sum up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think Councillor Raymond's answered the questions that were put to her very clearly. When you consider that some of this money we will lend, it's there for a couple of days, and we get a very good return on it. And I think it shows that the fact that we've gone through audit after audit after audit, from outside auditors and still come out with flying colours, it self-justifies that the actions that we take as a local authority have been the right one. And this has gone for a number of years. And if you should ask some of the other authorities within GN in particular, would they swap us the boots that we have and the finances we have? They said yes, because Wigan continuously gets it right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, all those in favour of accepting the recommendation as set out in the report, please show. Against? Thank you. There are no questions and comments on the deliberation of Cabinet and committees. Notices of motions. The motion has been submitted by Councillor Jones. I would remind him that he does not need to read out his motion, as it is set out on page 69 of the agenda. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With it being a short one, I will read it out. I'm not going to say much of it being an amendment. But the motion is that this council should take a new approach on tackling homelessness, so that we can give them the support they need in a safe environment with the goal of moving into permanent accommodation. Now, what my point is, especially to Councillor Halliwell, is I actually think you're doing a lot of good work. So this isn't instead of what's currently happening. This is as an add-on. Some said maybe like a halfway point between a night shelter and permanent accommodation. One of the problems we currently have, and like I said, the night shelter situation has improved tenfold here, so my hat's off to you for that. But it's 8 o'clock till 8 o'clock. And then they're back on the street, and we're not tackling the deep, real issues which has got these individuals out on the street. Again, fantastic work you've done in, I think the number was 5,000 people who prevented being homeless this year. Again, brilliant, but that's not what I'm asking. I've even subtled the motion down to just asking you to consider it as a cabinet. Just consider it, and we put an amendment in instead. If you don't like it, vote against it. But don't do an amendment. That isn't an amendment. An amendment is to change something. And I am a little bit furious, Madam, because I speak to these people individually, and I feel passionate about it, because when I walk out of here, these people are sat on the street, and instead we're playing politics. And you come to me and you say, it's a shame. One councillor who said, but what if we solve it, Steve? Then we'll have everybody come. So knocking on the head with the socialism nonsense, bringing people into this room pretending you're the current council when you're not. You're the same nonsense as that man right there. Don't tell us you want to work with us, and then when I put a motion asking you politely, yeah, Councillor, just look at it, put an amendment through, which is absolute nonsense. Why don't you just talk about it? Blow me off. You take the credit, because I'll tell you something, that wouldn't bother me. All I want is for these people to stop living on the streets and living like now each one of us. We have the power. We are the biggest decision maker in Wigan. And with her vote, we have the power to end that, just like Andy Burnham said. If you'd rather play politics, what even is your amendment? Carry on doing what we're doing, yeah. See, you know homeless people. Do me a favour, wait 6 months and open it yourself and solve homelessness, because I don't care. But if you're going to act like champagne socialists, just do something good. Each one of you walk out and look them people in the eye when you vote for this amendment and know that you're a part of the region that they're bloody well sat out
there. Is this motion seconded?
Seconded.
Councillor Collins, as seconded, do you wish to speak no or reserve the right to speak later? No. You don't wish to speak at all? Neither no or later. Is that correct? Thank you. We have received an amendment to the motion prior to 12 p.m. Deadline today from Councillor Halliwell, which has been seconded by Councillor Cunliffe. Councillor Halliwell, can you introduce your amendment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The reason I'm amending the motion tonight is because we actually want to improve on that. We don't want to play games with you, and I'm not going to play to the crowd like you've just done. So, what his motion doesn't take into account is the work that we're currently doing, because it clearly has not got a clue. It doesn't take into account the work that's coming on stream. It clearly has not got a clue. And instead of coming to us and talking to us like this, he's decided to play football with a very emotive subject. And I'm not going to do that tonight, Madam Mayor. I'm moving the motion because I want the opportunity to talk about what we do to people in this borough who find themselves sleeping. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Councillor Hammond. Is the amendment seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor, and reserve the right to speak.
Councillor Cunliffe, as seconded, do you wish the right to speak no or reserve the right to speak
Reserve the right
later?
to speak.
Later or no?
Later.
Thank you. Councillor Jones, do you accept the amendment to your motion?
No, Madam Mayor, I don't. An amendment is to change or add to something. This doesn't mention sheltered accommodation once. I want to know who signed this off, whether it's done by our head of legal team. If they've signed this off, but an amendment is to add or change. Political football, I brought this up in Health and Social Care Committee. I don't play football, I've got my personal reasons about homelessness. You come and have a walk around the street with me and see the problem and talk to the individuals. You ask the brick how many times a week I go in there and visit people out.
Councillor Jones.
Political football.
Councillor
You're a coward, man.
You will speak later. You can speak again later, but please take your seat. No, thank you. Do any members?
Can we speak on both motions?
You've got the agenda in front of you. Let's follow the agenda now. Thank you. Do any members wish to speak on the amendment? Can I remind members that at this point we are only debating whether the terms of the original motion should be amended, and we are not debating on the substantion of either our original motion or the amended motion. Councillor Cunliffe, as you... Right. Councillor Grundy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As has been said, this is a very emotive subject, and I think that both motions actually read quite reasonably. But I think there's a problem with the amendment. Councillor Jones's motion has asked, quite reasonably, for a specific course of action. He has not said that we should build a halfway house for homeless people. He has said we should produce a piece of work, a specific report on the possibility of doing this thing. I think that is perfectly reasonable. I don't think it's something, and I would imagine, as Councillor Halley was alluded to, that we are probably doing some work along these lines anyway. I think the problem with the Labour amendment is that it commits us to nothing specifically. I think the problem is it gives us the appearance that we're doing something, but basically commits us to no course of action whatsoever. If this amendment had come in as a motion on its own merits, I probably would support it. I think because it's trying to amend away from Councillor Jones's original motion, which calls for a specific course of action, sadly I don't think I can support it because it's attempting to move us away from doing a specific piece of work or a specific course of action and burying the subject of generality. So the amendment, if presented as a motion in its own right, is perfectly meaningful because it's trying to turn it into something general rather than specific. I don't think that's the right way to approach this subject. Thank you very much, Madam.
Councillor Paul Maiden.
Hi, Councillor Halliwell. Can I ask you one question? Did you deliver on your homeless targets this year? Thank you.
Councillor Brewer.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, for allowing me to speak again. Tonight, on the amendment, Councillor mentioned that, you know, you've got this programme in place and you're doing all this and we don't know about it. Well, why do we not know about it? The councillors, the 25 councillors are here. Why are we not?
Councillor Brewer, can I remind you that isn't on the amendment? Could we please get that to the amendment that's appointed?
Yes, it's after he said, what she's doing in place and what we're doing and what's coming up. Well, I've just been handed a document an hour ago in an emergency meeting with the Housing Recovery Forum and the legal people.
Councillor Brewer, that is brought here because we know nothing about this. I know nothing about this.
Sorry?
Could we please get down to the amendment?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that, Madam. This document was given to me on the process of dealing with homeless people. And it's 12 months old. And this is my first time I've seen this. You know, why was we not given this information 12 months ago? Why haven't we just been given it tonight, an hour ago? Because of Steve Jones's motion. You know, it doesn't make sense. You're telling us what you're doing in here. You're telling us what's in the future in here. And then we get this an hour ago. So a lot of lack of communication here. And I think you've got a heavy face because there's a lot of lack of communication. And I've got to reject your extension motion. I'm sorry, Councillor Howell.
Councillor Walker.
Can I welcome the opening of a brand new homeless centre in Leeds? Brand spanking new, fantastic, in the old Park building.
Councillor Walker, could you speak on the amendment, please?
Okay.
Councillor Cunliffe, if you will be quiet, I will begin. Councillor Cunliffe, as you have reserved your right to speak as seconder, and I will invite you to speak on the amendment of the motion. Councillor Cunliffe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would hope that we could come to some agreement and pass this amendment unanimously. And I understand what Councillor Jones says, but I actually think it's a misunderstanding of what is meant within this, because I actually think the amendment takes Councillor Jones's original motion actually further, because all he asked for is sheltered accommodation, providing new sheltered accommodation. The Council's forward plan has an item on it, which is the homelessness service. And I think what Councillor Walker was starting to talk about was, we spend a significant amount of money on homelessness. And I think part of the problem is there's a bit of a fragmented service, It's not in any way coordinated, and like Councillor Jones said, some of the centres provide overnight accommodation, and then at 8 o'clock in the morning people are out. And so what's referred to as the new emerging service is the service that's on the forward plan for the homelessness service. And that is around creating something that actually works much better than we currently have.
Councillor Conley, will you speak about the amendment, please?
I am speaking about the amendment. I'm talking about the new emerging homelessness service that is being created and put forward in the forward plan of this council. It involves a homeless hub in Leigh and a homeless hub in Wigan. The homeless hub in Leigh will be open very shortly. It's about coordinating the services around that. There are many reasons for homelessness, and Councillor Halliwell indicated that one of the first things to do with homelessness is to try and prevent it. And we prevented nearly 5,000 presentations of homelessness. The next thing to do is to intervene early, to help people when they do become homeless immediately. Now, there are many reasons for homelessness. Drug and alcohol.
Councillor Conley, you have the right to speak later regarding. Please carry on with the nomination amended motion, please. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I think that's what I'm talking about. The amendment says this Cabinet is requested to continue to develop the new approach and initiatives. I am talking about the new approach and initiatives that this Council is developing. Now, if that's not part of the amendment, then I don't know what is.
Carry on.
There are many reasons for homelessness. At a time of austerity, it can be financial, it can be debt, it can be drug and alcohol misuse, it can be mental health issues. There's a range of complicated factors around homelessness. And each story is individual, and that's why we're looking to develop the hubs, to base drug and alcohol services there, to put mental health services in there, to ensure that people 7 days a week aren't put out at 8 o'clock in the morning and actually engage in activity around promoting. Working with Housing First to provide accommodation for people. Social impact bonds. So there are two ways of dealing with that, of getting people back into housing. So we're looking to bring into the service in an integrated way the services around providing housing. Sometimes it's around enabling people to budget, to manage, because some people have been evicted from their homes because they can't manage, they can't pay the bills. So it's around the development of a service that gives people that ability and support to learn how to manage a tenancy. That is going to, that's in the forward plan, it is going to Councillor Halliwell and myself to approve, and we'll go through the process. But the actual hub in Leigh is virtually open and will be open soon, and the hub in Wigan will be open soon. But I think this is around a much more integrated approach to homelessness, about solving the real problems, and I would hope that we could all support that within this council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Jones and Winston Lane and the rest of others first. I'm sorry, but you're not allowed at this moment in time. Only Councillor Jones can speak. All the rest, would you please not speak on this?
Can I speak on the amendment?
Councillor Jones.
First of all, let me apologise. I lost my temper a little bit. I apologise to an extent, but I'll be honest, it sounds me when I see these people. Councillor Conley, I respect the hugely, I respect what you said then. The problem is, still I've not heard the word sheltered accommodation. I've said everything you've said. It's brilliant. A simple question. Is this going to lead to building with bedsits, with sheltered accommodation where people are going to come in daily? Is the centre in Leigh sheltered, or is it a night shelter? Just remember, I know every individual who's going to be working in that building, councillor. It's a night shelter. It is not sheltered. Sheltered accommodation will be, when it's sheltered accommodation, Madam, it will be like we see with a lot of our elder residents now. Like Kerwell, Scudder, you have to go on room. They have an area downstairs with meeting. Look at Walton House, fantastic place, we're knocking down. Great big telly, people saw says they've got a roof over their head. But if you've got drug problems, they're not going straight into a house. We then assess them again, move them into a house. Oh.
Councillor Jones, will you please stick to the amendment?
For
the last time.
I apologise, Madam Mayor. I'm a little confused with the amendment. If I got it wrong, I do apologise. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. No. Councillor Winston, you can speak later. What not? Sorry.
Oh, Councillor Winston.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Winston. Councillor Halliwell, do you wish to do a closing speech on the amendment?
I think, I might be wrong, Michael, and I'm sure you'll tell me because you're not slowly coming forward, but Michael wanted to speak, or Councillor Winston wants to speak, on the amendment. So, I'm asking, why can they not speak on the amendment?
Because I have been advised that, unfortunately, I didn't speak when it was the correct procedure time to do so. That time has
Can I just try and clarify? I'm afraid it does all get a little bit confusing. I think when we got to the summing up, as Councillor Cunliffe was the seconder, he reserved the right to speak. The rules require that the seconder can speak. Then we go to Councillor Jones as the mover of the original motion. And then Councillor Halliwell as the proposer of the amendment. But then we will have the vote on the amendment, and then depending on where that goes, there'll be another opportunity for people to speak.
Can I have a point of order? I reserve the right to speak till later in the debate. At any point later, I could have spoken straight after.
We're on the amendment.
It's when the summing is when the member of the amendment sums up that nobody can speak.
You will, Councillor Hunt, you will have that right. Councillor Halliwell, can we have time please so we can carry on the agenda of the month? Thank you so much. So Councillor Halliwell, do you wish to do a closing speech on the amendment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just for clarity, please, can you confirm that Councillor Jones has responded on the amendment to the motion and now the last person to speak before the vote? Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
It's okay, Councillor Jones, I'm rather than vote, I'm just trying to get clarity. Okay.
That's correct.
My colleague, thanks. Nobody wants to play political footballs with Russell. I apologise for getting across that, but he was pointing at me and he called me a couple of names for tonight. But let's just put that to one side for now and let's talk about the people who we need to talk about. So, thank you for that. My colleague is right. The motion doesn't allow us to do more. We want to do more. We want to talk about things that are on the forward plan. And it's about, purely about, dealing with people who are turning up or sleeping on our streets. And it's not easy. It's not easy to help them people onto the next steps in life. And we have to put a number of initiatives in there to help them get there. Not least, a number of things, and Councillor Cummins touched on. We've got some emerging initiatives, such as the 2 accommodation and support centres, 30 emergency beds, 7-day-a-week support, integrated health and rehab. That's one at Leeds, one at Leeds, very, very close to all. We've had some building regulations issues because it will now be passed on sleeping people, so we want them to be safe. We've also got initiatives such as the Housing First pilot, which Councillor Cummins touched on, that's all the support. We've also got the social impact on, which is another initiative. Basically, one is house-based, then support, another one is an asset approach, which is support first and then moving into a permanent residence. Hopefully that's the aim. We've recently had some fresh funding from the government to look at other ways we can help with funding, and that's like the new homes. It'll be another extension to what we've already done, which is beyond your emotion. So what we want to say is, we actually want to do more than what you want. This will be like additional outreach and further enhanced support, reaching out to individuals, being proactive rather than reactive. We've also, within the council, got homelessness champions who go out to reach out to people who are actually homeless. But on top of that, we actually, as Councillor Connor said, we have a number of things that prevent people from actually going into homelessness and provide support for those who may need drug and alcohol rehabilitation, who may need mental health assistance, who may need support with domestic violence. There is a myriad of reasons. Not one of the cases that are on the streets is the same. They're all different. They all need different types of support. So we've got to try and put in place services, initiatives, programs that are going to try and accommodate all of them. And I want to be able to talk about that, Councillor Jones, in the amendment. So I'm not taking anything away from your amendment. And it is in the forward plan. If you have a look, it's there. So we're not talking about something that's not going to happen. And I'm going to be talking about things that are already happening and how we're going to join them up even better. So, Madam Mayor, I'd like to move to the vote if possible, so we can hopefully get to the substantive motion. And I thank you, Councillor Jones, for your comments earlier.
I will now move to the vote on the amendment. All those in favour of accepting Councillor Halliwell's amendment to the motion, please show. Against? It's carried. We will now debate on the substantive motion. Councillor Holloway.
Thank you.
Councillor Holloway. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, colleagues. There are a huge amount of reasons why people end up rough sleeping. And we have different definitions of rough sleepers. People who are homeless, have heard the word street beggars used. We're all politicians, we all know the words we use, and we all know how difficult and emotive this is. Before I get to some of the things we're doing, and some of the things we'll be doing even beyond that, I think it's important to recognise some of the drivers behind what we're seeing. And it's not least the government's austerity programme, the cuts to welfare reform we've seen, have had decimated parts of our borough and some of the most vulnerable in our society. In particular, they hit women with children hard. We've seen people without food during holidays, we've closed schools. We see food banks come up with our national and international institutions calling the government programme cruel and unfair. And that's just to be kind. What are we doing? What have we been doing? Because it's difficult. And we've seen the figures rise right across Manchester, all the different boroughs across Manchester. We've seen the figures rise right across the country. It is ubiquitous. And the causes of it are manifold, not least because of the government's austerity programme. So what have we been doing? So and I've touched on this, so I apologise if I'm going to repeat in some areas, but I put them all together and I hope that it would sound like you'd be able to actually see what's going on. We aim to provide a new homelessness service, and it's been proposed to provide additional outreach and enhanced support so that we're proactive and not reactive. We're already very proactive, but we want to do more, and that's what we've got the extra funding for. So we're working that up now, Councillor Jones, and we hope that when we do come to spend it, it's spent in the proper way and not just throwing money at it. And we're hoping some of that will be in place by December 2018, and we will share it with everybody what that plan is and what we want to do with it. For us, the really important thing was we identified quite early that people are homeless all the time. They're not just homeless at the day, they're also at night time, they're homeless in the day as well. We identified quite early on that what we needed was some day off, we needed some rehabilitation to try and get people back into mainstream living. So we decided to go for a new homelessness service which will actually include 2 accommodation hubs, which my colleagues have just touched on. One in Wigan, one in Wigan, 30 emergency beds. It will be a 7-day-a-week support programme. It will co-locate homelessness services, which is key. That's drug and alcohol services. That's wider health provision. That's to ensure an integrated health and rehabilitation offer. We've then got a new town centre initiative that's been going on, SENU, it's been in place a while now. And that's where council and its partners, third sector, police and all the types of other agencies, they meet bi-monthly. Now, we're only obliged by government to do 1 street audit every year. That street audit actually says that you can only count someone who's been a rough sleeper if they're in the bag. If they're not in the bag, they're not a rough sleeper, they don't go on the count. So we don't do that. We have a bi-monthly audit of everybody who turns up or sleeping on the street. Each one of them, so those that we know of, we go out there, we meet them, and each one of them has an action plan to ensure that they are offered the appropriate support if they want it. Because quite often, they don't want it. Some don't want it, and that's not because they don't want it, that's because they might be on some drugs, they might be suffering from alcohol addiction, they might have mental health issues, for whatever reason they might refuse that offer. But we don't stop, we keep going back until they're ready to be helped. So I'll give you some examples of what we've been doing recently. So we've got 10 individuals being supported through the social impact bond. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want to identify these individuals. We've got 4 who've been rehoused and received support. 8 have accommodation offers pending. 3 are staying with friends. 6 are refusing assistance. 3 have left the borough. 2 are working with deep, complex dependency teams. Now, I could go on. There is more. But I think the numbers start to get so small, I don't want to identify people. So, what are we doing right now for those people? Well, we've got housing options for us sleepers. So, we've got a housing first pilot, and it's a pilot. And that's good, and that basically to provide homeless people with that support. This model is now being promoted across Greater Manchester by the month. 16 people have been involved to date. 9 have moved into accommodation and supported 7 others who are not yet quite ready. We've got the social impact bond. This scheme is run by Brit in conjunction with GM, with property being supplied by Wigan Council and others. And this model works with embedded bus sleepers through positive asset coaching. 22 people registered on the social impact bond today. They've been moved into accommodation. Council, private landlords and other social landlords that we use with our third sector group. We've also got additional support, and I think that this has to be recognised. This is what goes in. We commission a project through the integrated and drug and alcohol service for adults and young people. We've put about £3.5 million that per annum. 2,000 individuals access that service, helping to try and keep them off the streets and from rough sleeping. We've got to remember why we're there. We've also got commissioned support accommodation services, that's about 4.2 million, for a range of supported accommodation services across the borough, such as those for 18 to 25-year-olds, supported living for adults, emergency accommodation, including a safe place for victims fleeing domestic violence. We've also invested over the last 2 or 3 years additional help, and this has been in the form of financial support to some of our third sector practices like the break. So we've put in there about 1.8 million in 47 schemes to help them work with us. It's a partnership. We're not going to do this on our own, and nobody ever thinks they're going to do that, by the way. That's in there to provide not just support for those people who find themselves on the street, but it gives them advice, it helps them to access skills and training, and it's not just about food provision. We also have within the council a financial support team, and they've actually brought in about 250k, about £250,000, and they help people who are probably on the edge of probably losing the tenancy, but we help them to gain welfare weekly benefit awards, benefit backdates and other sources, preventing people from going into debt, losing their home, and thereby keeping them in the home. So we've done about 703 customers between January and May at our welfare services right throughout the borough. Homeless prevention, my colleague Keith touched on this earlier on. 3,618 triage appointments, 1st of April 2017 to 31st of March 2018. 4,873 cases of homelessness prevented. 89% of cases assisted to remain in their own home at 1st of April 2017 to 1st of March 2018. Now, since the Homelessness Act came in, that's put extra pressure on every single council. And we've had today wanting to try and support this. So again, alongside the cuts we've had to make in this council, I think we're up to about 128 million now, we've had to try and embed this into our system. So up to now we've had, since the introduction of the Homelessness Reduction Act, we've had 858 contacts, all offered homeless interviews and allocated a dedicated housing officer. It's not just about getting them off the street. It's about keeping them in the homes that they already have. We do have a new part of the two new hubs we can lead, a very integrated homeless partnership with a holistic support to help those. So there will be a 24/7 hour. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Conley, I'll second you. Councillor Conley, I'll second you. Do you wish to speak no or reserve the right to speak no?
I will reserve my right and speak later.
Thank you. Councillor Wisdom,
what I wanted to try and do though, before we got to the vote on the amendment, was to try and bridge the gap between the two different sort of like sides really, because I don't really think that they're a million miles apart in terms of what the original was and what the amendment was. And obviously Councillor Jones spoke very passionately about it, and it is an emotive subject. And I think part of the problem was that there was no specifics. Now obviously Councillor Halliwell has gone into that in terms of the amendment. So what I wanted to try and do was to try and sort of like build on that together. Perhaps a commitment from Councillor Halliwell's part of his portfolio that he could bring back a detailed report during the course of later in the council year to look at some of those initiatives, what's happened, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and then perhaps build on that for the future as well, because nothing stays static forever, and we also need to look at what works and what doesn't work, because if something isn't working, then we do need to try a different approach as well. And I think the other important thing to remember here as well, it's about, I'm just looking at the combined authorities side there, because obviously this is very much part of the work that the scrutiny committees are doing across Greater Manchester, and I've been listening to evidence of those committees, and it's evident that actually different local authorities have different ways of dealing with this, so we're not actually all coterminous in the same way that we actually deal with it. So it's about making sure that we've got that work again going on at GM level to make sure that we have got some standardisation across Greater Manchester as well. So that's really what I wanted to do earlier on, to try and look and try and, if we could get people together to get perhaps for us all to have voted for the amendment to start off with, and then we didn't have that split at the beginning, because I think it's important that we all work together and put our differences to one side, because this is an important issue. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Steve Jones.
Thank you, Madam Councillor Halliwell, I'm not going to keep going on all night back and forth. What you said again was very good, and I do believe you're passionate. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to leave it and let it go away. I know roughly what's going out in them streets. I know the charities that have been doing our work. I don't just mean yours, I mean our work for the last 2 years. And they have been doing. I know the individuals who are homeless. Now, we're what? Short less than 6 months away from the cold winter. So I'm going to re-bring this back up before then, but I'm also going to work with you, whether you like it or not. If I come across the homeless, I'm going to get the details myself, because whatever's happening here, believe me, isn't getting out them 4 doors. And if you need it, prove it, Councillor Halliwell, I will. But they do not know what's going on. They don't see these people, these champions who go out visiting them. And I'll tell you another thing, he said a lot of them don't want the help. I've helped home between 10 and 15 people now, Councillor, and not one of them has ever refused my help. First thing I do, I ask them, are you homeless? They say, yeah. I say, I'm a counsellor. Can I help you? My partner up there comes with me. We can't walk past people who are struggling like that, and every single one of them says, yeah. So it's brilliant. You're better speaking than me. You said I don't what I'm on about. You've got the figures. You're the professionals. But come out there with me. But you might find we can have more in common. We can actually work together and really end it. But the first thing is just walk in, please walk out them doors and speak to what these individuals are going through. See a lot of you shaking your heads. It's probably easier to deny it, because if you accept it's happening, you realise that you're at fault. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor May.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, Councillor Halliwell, you've not delivered on your figures this year for the homeless. You're going on about facts and figures and all the rest of it, and there's one vital ingredient you've missed out in your facts for my people on the street. I want to help the homeless, so many other people, and the main cause of people being on the streets in Wigan there is universal credits. And that disaster was brought in by the former leader over there. Can't we have some addressing that? Well, you did with Parliament, and then you bragged about it in the paper, but that's politicised. I'm trying to get to the point of something else with homeless. If we could address the universal credit payments, because the universal credit is created, its format, but its deliverance and how it's implemented is a disaster, and it is putting people on the streets. Thank you.
Councillor Cunliffe, you have the right to speak at the end. Councillor Grundy. Councillor.
Thank you. Keep your microphone on. Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just going back to what I said earlier, providing what Councillor Winston said, I think that the problem I had with the amendment was that it had no specifics. Now hearing the specifics from both Councillor Cunliffe and Councillor Halliwell, I think that I'm probably now willing to vote for the motion as amended, wasn't willing to vote for the amendment without detail. I do think, though, that the format that we now present motions in has caused this problem. Obviously now motions are very limited in size, so obviously to fit in a very detailed response you have to fit it into one paragraph. I think that in terms of procedure, if you could have put in some kind of appended document, a supporting document, say, and we need this, and the opposition could have read that beforehand, I think probably we could have got unanimity on the amendment earlier on. But I'm now given what we've heard, and I think Councillor Winston's proposal is entirely correct. That if you're willing to stand up and say, we'll come back with more detailed proposals as a consequence of this motion, I think probably everyone in this room will unanimously support the motion as amended. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Greenwood.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Terry's speech was really good, and I can't believe he's doing so much for our community and these people. And people. It was on a dirt track for 6 weeks, sleeping on the sleeping bag. The leader's ward, Councillor Rudy's ward, and Councillor Sharp's ward. Why was I brought in on this? When they'd been there for 6 weeks. Good job we had that good weather. First time I went down there, I said, let's get them off the roofs. I got a bloke sleep, a bloke mattress. The time I got home and blow it up and come back, somebody put one there. So obviously, somebody took the initiative. So I said, there must be an old caravan in somebody's house somewhere. Lo and behold, somebody brought it. It went on the internet, and the will of the good people of Wigan and the veterans, they brought a caravan. And it was out the weather, sunshine and light, but it was out the weather. Then, why was he on the streets? Councillor Halliwell said, we've got all these schemes in place. Why was he on the streets? Because he was in arrears by £1,500. They can't control money. He said, Bob, we can't control our money. We've no idea. Why don't we set up a scheme? On the phone. Why don't we set up a scheme? So they did. As the money came in, it was a bad situation what the Tories invented. Give the money to these people because they're going to feed the kids before they're going to pay rent. I totally agree with Labour over that. So, I mean, that's barbaric. I mean, and that's the council in a full position. But set up schemes, as the money came in, the rent got paid out. Same with this couple. He was begging for support. Anyway, the scheme was sorted out. Now, there was these two people recovering drug dealers, druggies, they call it, taking drugs. So there was, like, I mean, that's how you're going on his debt. Councillor Halliwell says it's all a figment and, you know, circumstances lead them to that. They've been clean for 2 years. Now I find out, I wasn't allowed to find out where they were. I've been the councillor helping them for 5 days, solid. Got them off the floor, got them into a caravan, then got them a house. But lo and behold, I wasn't allowed as a councillor to find out, see how they were doing and how much support I could give them. But somebody gives us a TV, there's no way to deliver it to. Somebody gives us furniture, go and deliver it to. You know, you're not allowed to help them anymore. The council took it over. But anyway, the guy got back in touch with me and he was crying on the phone. Why would you say that? And so, why was the guy crying down the house? Off the streets and everything? Because you put him in a drug environment. I mean, what he's trying to get away from for 2 years, you put him back there. Now, I went round this with residents. What was the house here empty? Yeah, right. We sent in the addresses. A flat was empty. Ideal for them. There's a couple of neighbours next door, young couple to come in, who wanted to look after them. Bang, you bang them in league. In a drug environment. What do you say you're a Curry council?
Point of order, Madam, he's not speaking to the motion. This is an anecdotal tale, this is not the motion.
Of course it's about shelter and accommodation, isn't it? But it's everything, it's homelessness we're talking about. Why do you reprimand that council? You reprimand me enough to start.
Councillor Brewer, if you wish to continue to the time that you have got, continue.
Talking, Terry, is cheap. Action, that's what you need. Get me on this committee. I've got contacts. I get things done. And the people respect me. Not all you waffle over, I'm a bad boy. What about
Councillor Brewer, speak about what is done. Your time is up. Please, thank you.
I'm going to fly out and down it up. Bye.
Councillor Gerard, is your light on?
No, it's okay.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cunliffe. As you have the right to reserve the right to speak as seconder, I now invite you to speak on the substantive motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I welcome the comments from Councillor Winston and Councillor Jones, because I think we're all trying to get the same things here. And I think the reason that the amendment became a substantive one, because Councillor Jones' original motion was to provide sheltered housing. And I think it's actually much more than that we need to be providing to meet the needs of the homeless. And some of the things about mental health, drug and alcohol services, to get people, I mean, some people can't maintain a tenancy. So actually, I think, and one of the questions I will be asking tomorrow morning, because I indicated that the new homelessness service was on the forward plan with the decision due on the 13th of July, which was last Friday. The decision to be made by myself and Councillor Halliwell. And I'd be interested to see why that decision didn't take place on that day from our officers. Because actually that would have prevented and started to bring out all the things that Councillor Halliwell was talking about. So I think that needs to be sorted out further quickly, that decision needs to be made, and then we can get to the discussion around all the stuff and see what is proposed within the new service and how the new service will work. Because like I said earlier, what we have currently is spending a lot of money on homelessness services that are fragmented, that are not integrated, that are not actually achieving the aims that we want to set out to do. And this is around integrating it so that there are night shelters for emergency, that people aren't thrown out in the morning, that they get the mental and physical help that they need, they get support during the day, that they're then diverted and housing options are sorted out for them, whether that's in a supported shelter accommodation or whether it's in independent accommodation with some support to help them, with floating support. So we're looking at the range of things. And the plan and the new homelessness service will provide that. And I think we're all talking about the same thing and we're all agreeing on the same thing. And it's a bit like two old men fighting over a comb. We're talking about something that we don't need to be talking about. Because actually, that's the direction of travel we're going in. So I think what the amended motion and now the substantive motion does is say, let's provide the facilities and the resources that are needed across the whole range of homelessness support. And that's what we're going to do. So I think over the next cycle, we'll start to see what the plans are, and yes, let's all get behind them. Let's all get involved, let's all get sorted, because homelessness is a real issue and a real problem for some people in this borough. And until we start to address it in an integrated way, we'll continue to have this problem. So I think there is an opportunity here for us all to work together on what the new homeless service will be. And when the decision is made that was in the forward plan, that should have been made on Friday, we'll get on and do it.
Point of information, one line. Just a point of information. My motion's been in 10 days. You could have called me or emailed, I would have met with you, and we could have had this. Apologise for when was it before. Just give me a ring. I mean when I said I'd work with you on something like that. Thank you, Madam.
Councillor Halliwell, I now invite you to sum up on the substantive motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to touch on what this would, what's in the forward plan, what this will actually look like. And it's basically 4 areas. Engagement, first stop emergency accommodation, accommodation and support provision, and ultimately independent living. That's the action plan. That's it, it's real, it exists. And you can sit there all night, and have you noticed? I've been pointed at, I've been called names, I've been invited to go outside, and I'll bet you every single one of us in this room, I'll bet that every single one of us in this room can come to this chamber and give you a tale about how much we support different individuals in the community. And it's disappointing, Councillor Brindley, you took the opportunity to bring to this chamber an individual case that's emotive, sensitive, and it was wrong of you, and you should not have done it, that they have confidentiality issue with them. You're out of order. No.
If I had stepped in, they would have still been on the street because of you.
Councillor Breland, will you sit down, please? We are not children in
You are too pleased.
Councillor Breland, can we get on with what we're supposed to do?
It's horrible. Insulting behaviour. Somebody offered you out.
Councillor Breland, I will not say it again. Now please be quiet and we'll carry on. Thank you. Councillor Halliwell.
Thank you very much. Come on. Thank you very much. I'm not playing political football with individual cases in this room. There's enough of them. There's enough on the plate, and I'm not going to take the opportunity like you did to make your case. Because I think it's your opportunity.
He's pointing at you. No. You can't call him Bob Black.
Can I continue, Madam Mayor?
Councillor Breland, calm down and let's listen to what
So, what does that look like? Engagement. I'll tell you what it looks like. Targeted engagement point, a deal framework, food provision, community venues, life centre, hospital, GPs, primary care, place-based working, democratic footprint, community outreach, a lean hub, targeted engagement points. What does the emergency accommodation look like? 15 beds at Lee, 15 at Wigan, place-based teams, drug and alcohol services, food provision, intelligence, accommodation and support provision, entrenched or sleeping and complexity issues, housing first and support with the social impact bond, high risk, high complexity, self-contained flats, 24-hour support, duty and standard flexible provision, self-contained flats, enhanced support, homelessness with offended, lower level mental health, learning, disability, it goes on and on and on. Going on, like you do, Councillor Breland, pointing fingers all around, will not solve this issue. Only if we all come together and accept that a policy that deals with rough sleeping holistically, without point scoring or trying to make yourself look popular, is the only way to do it. And I'm going to say support this motion and we'll get on with it. Thank you very much, Mayor.
I will now move to the vote on the substantive motion. The substantive motion now reads: this council welcomes the emerging new approach and initiatives that are being developed in the borough to tackle the problems of homelessness. This approach will ensure that people receive the necessary support in a safe environment, enabling them to live as independently as possible, and equip them with the ability to access and maintain a permanent home. Therefore, the Council is asked to support the following motion: that the Cabinet is requested to continue to develop the new approach and initiative to tackle the problems of homelessness, and to have due regards to the need for any additional resources or facilities as may be considered necessary. All those in favour of accepting the motion, please show. Thank you. Against? That concludes the business before us tonight. Thank you all for your attendance and a safe journey.